Gormagat Lescan Corla. Taoiseach, you are well aware of the housing situation and indeed the construction sector right around this country. The dire need for basically getting work done and getting houses built. And I know that your government are bringing bills forward over the coming weeks. But in relation to the construction sector, Taoiseach, and I do acknowledge that Minister McGrath earlier on this year revised figures for what we would call government jobs that contractors would be doing. But there is a serious problem right around this country where houses are being built and indeed other works that's basically not government related, where the price of materials, the price of doing the job has gone up. There is battles going on. And if you look at the stats, Taoiseach, the amount of companies that are basically ceasing or going into liquidation is getting very worrying. And you have seen earlier on this year in relation to one of our biggest contractors on the roads, Roadbridge, what happened. But we are seeing this constantly now, week after week, especially in the Dublin area. And unfortunately, some of those companies are Northern Ireland, from Northern Ireland, a lot of the companies that are ceasing. But the big problem that's happening, Taoiseach, is that smaller subcontractors, be it the brickie, be it the person that has the excavators doing the groundworks for these contractors, all the different phases of work, these are being left high and dry, which basically has a knock-on effect on those subcontractors. And I know Fergal Quinn, in fairness to him, Senator Fergal Quinn, had a bill where you basically had to have a cert that you could go in later on into court. But we have to try and nip this at the bud of what's going on. If a client employs a main contractor, the subcontractor that works for that client should have basically a signature or a certification before the client gives them the money to make sure that that subcontractor is paid. And I would ask you, Taoiseach, and I know that you'll be moving positions in the next week, I don't know where you're going to be going, but under trade or whatever part of government that this is required, that a regulation or legislation be brought in that where a main contractor is paying where the client is paying the main contractor, that a certification system is done that every subcontractor is paid on site. And it's not complicated, because any subcontractor that works on site, revenue has all their details. It isn't a long list that you have to be going through. But I would urge government to do this, because there is an awful lot of small 2, 3, 4 people, or employers that has 2, 3 and 4 people working for them are being basically left high and dry, and it will put them to the wall. And I would ask you, would your government look at that in the coming months?
Thank the Deputy for raising the issue. I would say at the outset that capacity in the construction industry has expanded significantly in the last year, and more generally in the economy. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. There's 416,000 more people working in the economy now than 2020. So the bounce back from COVID was quite significant. 400,000 back since 2020. Now, obviously, a lot of people had lost as a result of COVID, but still an extraordinary figure. The target of 2.5 million that we had set for 2024, 2.5 million people employed, has been well exceeded already in 2022. We're now at 2.55 million people working in the economy. And that's notwithstanding Brexit, the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, all of which have had significant increases, as you said, or impacts on cost of materials, the cost of building materials, and so on. And what's interesting, about 40,000 more people are working in the construction sector than last year, and about 20,000 more than 2019. So capacity has been built up, and we're trying to build up more. Now, in relation to the specifics that you raised in terms of subcontractors, and as you have referenced, the 2013 Construction Payments Act does provide for the regulation of payments to subcontractors in particular, because this was an issue that was raised significantly at that time. And you're right, Senator Quinn raised that and piloted that through the Shannon initially and then through the Oireachtas. I think what we'll do in light of what you're saying, we'll undertake to review that Act. Ask the Minister for Public Expenditure here to review that Act with a view to seeing can it be improved, and if you have any inputs to make in terms of potential amendments, that we get the balance right, because I do recall a lot of discussion at the time in relation to that bill. We're open to such reviews.
Taoiseach, for your reply. I'm not questioning the amount of people or the extra people, and I do acknowledge there's extra people working in the economy at the moment. What I'm specifically talking about is where a client, be it the state or be it a private client, hires a main contractor. And what seems to be happening at the moment is some of those are going into liquidation. Unfortunately, a lot of them seem to be coming from Northern Ireland, that's from the trend I've been watching. And then the subcontractor, a smaller outfit, is left high and dry for the money. And that's the big problem. And while I acknowledge the great work that Fergal Quinn done, and in fairness, at the given time the government brought it in, you need a search, and it's basically after the event is over that you'll try and go to court. Not a lot of good if they're gone into liquidation. And what I am proposing, and I welcome that you are open to reviewing that once again, that before the main client, be it the state or be it the client that's building something privately, that before they would pay the main contractor, that the subcontractors on the site, that be some type, be it of certification, that they would have signed to make sure that their payments are kept up to date. Because we have seen huge fallout. We've seen huge fallout from the likes of Roadbridge, what happened over the last 6 or 8 months with Roadbridge. We have seen the fallout of smaller subcontractors basically being put to the wall because they cannot withstand the hit that they take by not getting paid, be it for a month, be it for 2 months. And generally, if you look at it, it's running about 3 months. And if you have machines in on hire, or if you have say people in and hire doing different works, the figure builds up, and they haven't the capacity to withstand the belt that comes to them. It's okay for whoever has gone into liquidation; they're a different story. But for these people, they have to face everything and try and survive it, which is impossible. And I welcome what you said, that you would you're open for review.
Well, again, I thank the Deputy for raising the issue. I think if you could feed through some of that individual examples that you have, then maybe you could feed them through to Minister McGrath or myself, and that's one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it, we will give this further consideration in terms of a review of the existing Act and regulations that govern this whole area of payment of subcontractors, and try and get the balance right.